1987. In a quiet garage in Queens, New York, an old man is mixing paint. He is not famous. He has no gallery deals. Nobody on this street knows his name. But in a few hours, the painting drying on his easel will hang inside one of the most respected art galleries in America. It will be sold for millions of dollars. Collectors will hang it in their living rooms, museums will study it, and for 15 years, not one expert, not one buyer, not one gallery owner will realize it is fake. By the time anyone notices, this quiet man and the people around him will have made more than $80 million from a garage, with some canvas, some old paint, and a tea bag. This is the story of how the art world's most trusted gallery sold fake paintings to the richest people in America, and nobody noticed for 15 years. To understand how this happened, you have to understand where it happened. Not some shady back alley shop, the Knoedler Gallery on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. It was the oldest gallery in New York City. It had been open since 1846. It had sold paintings to presidents. It had a reputation that took over 150 years to build. When you bought a painting from Knoedler, you were not just buying art, you were buying trust. Nobody double-checked a painting from Knoedler. Why would they? It was like doubting a diamond from Tiffany's. Running the gallery in the early 2000s was a woman named Anne Friedman. She was smart, respected, and deeply connected in the art world. People believed her. And one day, a woman walked into her gallery with a story that would change everything. Her name was Glafira Rosales. She said she represented a private collector. A mysterious man, she said, who wanted to stay anonymous. This collector had inherited a stunning private collection of paintings, lost works by some of the biggest names in modern art. Jackson Pollock, Mark Rothko, Willem de Kooning. Rosales called this secret collector Mr. X. She said his father had known these famous artists personally and had bought paintings directly from them decades ago, before they became legends. Now Mr. X wanted to quietly sell them off, piece by piece, without drawing attention. It sounded almost too good to be true. But Anne Friedman looked at the paintings, and they looked right. The brushstrokes, the colors, the style, everything matched. She brought in experts. Some had doubts, but others were convinced. And so, in 1994, the Knoedler Gallery agreed to start selling the paintings from Mr. X's secret collection. Nobody in that room knew they were looking at fakes. Nobody knew that somewhere in Queens, an old, quiet painter was about to become one of the most successful art forgers in American history. His name was Pei-Shen Qian. He had come to the United States from Shanghai, chasing the dream every immigrant artist chases, to make it in the American art world. He set up a studio, painted his own original work, and tried to sell it on the streets of Manhattan. But nobody wanted his paintings, not the way they were. His own style never found buyers. Yet Qian had a rare and strange gift. He could study another artist's work and recreate it almost perfectly. Not copy it exactly, that would be too obvious. He could absorb an artist's technique so completely that he could paint an entirely new piece, one that had never existed before, and make it look exactly like something that artist would have painted. This is not an easy skill. Faking a signature is simple. Faking the soul of an artist's brushwork, the pressure, the rhythm, the exact way Pollock flung paint across a canvas. That takes real talent. Qian had it. At some point, this rare talent caught the attention of Glafira Rosales and her partner, a man named Jose Carlos Bergantinos Diaz. They saw an opportunity. Qian, struggling to sell his own art, agreed to paint in the style of the masters. He was reportedly paid a few $1,000s per painting, a small fraction of what those paintings would eventually sell for. Rosales and her partner needed the paintings to look old. Fresh paint looks fresh. 60-year-old paint looks different. It cracks in a certain way. It dries with a certain texture. So they used tricks. They aged the canvases. They used old, sometimes antique frames. They reportedly even dipped tea bags to stain the paper and give it that yellowed, aged look. Then they gave these paintings a history that never happened. A secret collector, a private inheritance, a story with just enough mystery to explain why nobody had heard of these works before, but just enough detail to sound believable. And it worked. Painting after painting sold. A fake Rothko for millions. A fake Pollock for millions more. The gallery's most trusted experts studied brushstrokes under bright lights and found nothing wrong. The story of Mr. X's secret collection was passed from buyer to buyer like fact. But something as fragile as this could only survive as long as nobody looked too closely. Over the next 15 years, dozens of these fake paintings sold. Wealthy collectors, hedge fund managers, even people connected to major auction houses bought them, believing they were adding real, undiscovered masterpieces to their collections. One of the buyers was Domenico de Sole, the chairman of Sotheby's, one of the largest and most respected auction houses in the world. If anyone should have been able to spot a fake, it was someone at the very top of the art business. He paid over $8 million for a painting that was supposed to be a lost Mark Rothko. It was fake, made in a garage in Queens. Another collector, Pierre Lagrange, bought a painting believed to be a Jackson Pollock for millions of dollars. Years later, he would send it in for a routine check before reselling it, a decision that would end up cracking the entire scheme wide open. For years, though, nobody suspected anything. The paintings kept selling. Anne Friedman kept vouching for them. The story of the mysterious Mr. X kept circling through the art world, repeated so many times that it started to feel like fact, simply because everyone had heard it before. And Pei-Shen Qian kept painting, quietly, in his Queens studio, producing masterpiece after fake masterpiece, never once stepping into the gallery himself, never meeting the millionaires who would pay for his work. But cracks were starting to form. Small ones, the kind nobody notices until it's too late. In 2009, Pierre Lagrange sent his supposed Jackson Pollock painting to be tested before a resale. What the lab found should have ended this scheme years earlier, but instead it took time to unravel. The painting contained a pigment called phthalocyanine green. Under close chemical testing, it turned out this exact type of paint was not available to artists until years after Pollock had already died. In other words, the paint used in a painting supposedly created by Pollock did not exist yet when Pollock was alive. It was scientifically impossible. Around the same time, an art historian named Jack Flam started digging deeper into other paintings from Mr. X's mysterious collection. He was suspicious of how easily these masterpieces had appeared out of nowhere, with no clear paper trail, no gallery records, nothing except Rosales' story. Flam brought in forensic experts. One test after another began revealing the same disturbing pattern. Pigments that were manufactured decades after the paintings were supposedly created. Materials that simply could not have been used by the artists whose names were on the canvases. Flam took his findings to the FBI's Art Crime Unit. For years, wealthy, educated, experienced professionals in the art world had looked at these paintings and seen nothing wrong. But paint chemistry doesn't lie. And once investigators started testing the paintings scientifically, instead of just admiring them visually, the entire scheme began collapsing. As the FBI investigation deepened, the pressure on Glafira Rosales grew unbearable. In 2013, she confessed. She admitted the paintings were fakes. Firos. She admitted the story of the mysterious Mr. X had never been true, and she gave investigators the name of the man who had actually painted them. Pei-Shen Qian. By the time his name became public, Qian had already left the United States and returned to China. Because the US and China do not have an extradition treaty that would force his return for this type of crime, he was never brought back to face trial in America. Rosales, on the other hand, pleaded guilty to conspiracy, money laundering, tax evasion, and other charges. In total, prosecutors say the scheme brought in more than $80 million from selling fake paintings to buyers who believed they were purchasing genuine, museum-quality art. The gallery that sold these fakes, Knoedler Company, once the oldest art gallery in New York City, closed its doors in 2011 after 165 years in business, as lawsuits from furious collectors started piling up. Anne Friedman, the gallery's president who had vouched for the paintings for years, was sued by multiple collectors. She always maintained that she, too, had been deceived, that she genuinely believed the paintings were real, and had no idea she was helping sell forgeries. Several lawsuits against her were eventually settled. Part 6. The question nobody can fully answer here is what makes this story different from a normal heist. Nobody broke into a bank. Nobody hacked a computer system. Nobody threatened anyone with a weapon. A quiet immigrant painter, working in a small studio, using nothing but skill, patience, and ordinary art supplies, managed to fool some of the most educated, wealthy, and experienced people in the art world for over 15 years. The paintings passed through the hands of gallery experts, wealthy collectors, and even executives from the world's top auction houses. Every single one of them looked at these paintings and believed they were looking at the real thing. It took a lab test, not an expert's eye, not decades of art knowledge, to finally expose what was really happening. A single chemical pigment that shouldn't have existed yet cracked open a fraud worth more than $80 million. Pei-Shen Qian never faced trial. He remains in China today. The man whose brush created fake masterpieces that fooled millionaires for over a decade simply went home, and the story ended there for him. Meanwhile, in galleries and private collections around the world, nobody knows for certain how many of his paintings are still out there, hanging on walls, believed to be real, admired by people who have no idea they are looking at the work of a quiet man who once painted in a garage in Queens. And that is the part of this story that should make you a little uneasy. Because if this scheme lasted 15 years, deceiving people whose entire careers were built on spotting fakes, it raises an unsettling question. How many other paintings, hanging in how many other galleries right now, are not what they claim to be? Nobody knows the real answer, and maybe nobody ever will.